the best vampire games you can experience. Find your next victim on this list. Are you also looking for the best vampire games? Are you also looking for a game where you can jump very high, cut people to pieces, and use strange magic? No matter how much everyone else tries to make it look bad, we all wanted to be vampires from the bottom of our hearts. In this video, we want to take a short look at several different games and different styles. All these games are selected from among the best vampire games, so don't worry, whether you like role-playing or strategy, we will have a game for you. V Rising. If you were playing Valheim a while ago, but thought to yourself that the only problem with the game is that it doesn't have a very vampire feel, then V Rising will be your favorite game. This game is a good combination of several styles and interesting gameplay. In fact, V Rising combines the crafting elements of Minecraft with the open world of Diablo. The result of this combination is an angry vampire whose only goal is to rebuild a palace and rule the mortal world once again. Of course, this mortal world that I mentioned is not going to accept your rule without saying anything. Among these people, magicians, hunters, and various soldiers can also be seen. In addition to all these, there are still creatures that you can test your powers on, like skeletons, wolves, bears, and even other players. The game world of V Rising can be single-player, a private server, or an open server for everyone. Aside from the construction in V Rising, the most interesting part of the game is finding blood to quench your thirst. Maybe the beginning of the game is a bit difficult and dumb for you, but like any other vampire, you will find the right blood over time and you will not be thirsty. Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines. Bloodlines game is one of the best PC games. Not just among the vampire games, one of the best PC games overall. Unfortunately, this game was very unlucky. Because it was released exactly at the same time as Half-Life 2, it had many bugs and it did not have a famous developer. There is one reason that makes you want to experience this game. This game is actually the same as Deus Ex, but with a vampire flavor. After choosing your clan, which determines how you play the game, you are free to roam the city of Los Angeles looking for a decent meal at night, doing missions, and looking for the reason for the war between the clans. How you do these things is entirely up to you, and all of these issues revolve around smart and innovative game rules. If you have a deceptive personality, you can convince your victims to offer you their necks themselves. If you are a bad-faced vampire, you have to eat people's blood with acts of terror. Maybe this game has many problems, but Bloodlines has so many interesting ideas that it can cover all these problems. Castlevania: Lords of Shadows. Currently, the Castlevania game series is considered the most famous vampire games, but it's sad that only a few titles of this game have been released for PC. We hope to see titles like Symphony of the Night and other 2D games in the series on Steam soon. Currently, we only have one 3D title in our hands, which is one of the best action-adventure games on the market. The first Lords of Shadows title is an exciting God of War-style game full of fascinating creatures. Players play as Gabriel Belmont, who wields a cross-shaped chain whip against the forces of darkness. In the beginning, the combat of the game is just pressing the attack button, but little by little, the game becomes more tactical and forces the player to use combination attacks, use magic, and dodge in different styles and ways. In addition to all this, in the second version, Gabriel becomes a vampire himself. You really can't expect more from a vampire game. Vampyr. Vampyr tells the emotional story of a vampire and has a new fighting style inspired by Dark Souls. A large part of the game involves talking to the people of London and trying to find the root cause of a disease in the city. During this time, you will develop a series of emotional relationships with various people in the game, while fighting vampire hunters and werewolves at night. The most interesting part of Vampyr is choosing your victims. You can use rats as a power source, which will make you significantly weaker in fights. But at least you don't kill anyone in the game. Maybe you'd like to befriend a bunch of humans, do missions for them, earn their trust, raise them to the highest level of health, and then rip their throats out in a secluded corner and feed them. You will get much more points with this method, but your soul will die very slowly from the inside. The Elder Scrolls v. Skyrim. The fascinating part of Skyrim is that you choose your own path and decide who you will be. A wild and uncivilized creature that kills dragons with fists. A wizard who fights giants with fire. No, you'd like to be an immortal vampire who feasts on the blood of the people of Skyrim at night. This work has many benefits. You no longer get poisoned and your spells are significantly stronger. Skyrim has the potential to be one of the best vampire games in the world. The Dawnguard expansion pack adds a ton of content around being a vampire. The entire content of this expansion pack is related to vampires, where a group called the Volkihar family are trying to fulfill a prophecy, while fighting a group of vampire hunters called Dawnguard. It gets even better. Players can become a powerful vampire themselves and gain a series of new powers, like more speed and attracting enemies towards you. The good thing about this add-on package is that it doesn't need any mods and it is full of story, excitement, and content. Legacy of Kain, Defiance. Aside from the Castlevania series, the Legacy of Kain games are the most popular vampire games. Between 1997 and 2003, 5 games of this series were released. Very good games can be found among these 5, but now we will only go to the last game, that is, Legacy of Kain, Defiance, which was made extremely beautifully and ends the story of all the games together and at the same time. Event in terms of combat, this game was a collection of previous games. The fighting style is similar to Blood Omen and Soul Reaver, both of which can be used for the main character of the game. The variety of enemies in this game is more than before, and the intellectual and puzzle part of the game has also increased. The story of the game, thanks to the creator of Uncharted, Amy Hennig, is extremely interesting. The Legacy of Kain series of games were really famous and popular. It's so strange that they haven't been around for 15 years. Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon. In the absence of 2D Castlevania games for PC, we have no choice but the Bloodstained series. From this collection, only the first game is available. That's okay because this game is really a masterpiece. It is true that in terms of gameplay, it does not reach the level of Castlevania games and it does not have as much innovation in its weapons, but this game compensates for these problems by having several characters, each of which has their own special powers. Zangetsu is powerful and attacks up close. Miriam fights from a distance. Alfred has magical powers, and Gebel can turn into a bat. That's right, Gebel is a game vampire. You have to use all these characters and their powers to progress in the game. Maybe this game is simple at first glance, but it is really worth trying. BLOODRAYNE Betrayal. Despite the huge potential of the vampire versus Nazi fight, BLOODRAYNE's 3 games were never as good as we'd hoped. It seems like all they needed to do to make a good game was to make it 2D. BLOODRAYNE Betrayal is an action and 2D game, but this is just the name. In fact, the correct title of this game is Dark Souls 2D. The game is extremely hard and challenging, especially considering the number of enemies that the game throws at the player. If you like hard and challenging games, don't miss this game. The difficulty of the game is not so much that it becomes impossible, because whenever you want you can eat the blood of your enemies and become fully healthy again. The visual effects of the game are also very beautiful and somewhat similar to comic books. Vampire: The Masquerade Redemption. It's true that when it comes to the Vampire: The Masquerade series, everyone thinks of Bloodlines. There is no doubt about the beauty of that game, but we must not forget the Redemption game from this series. These 2 games have nothing in common. Bloodlines game is more similar to Deus Ex, but Redemption is very similar to Diablo or Witcher series. The goal of the game is more about progress than fighting. Finding the right strategy for the battle and finding good sources of blood and money are very important in this game. The story revolves around a crusader knight in the 12th century in the city of Prague looking for vampires to hunt them down, until he becomes a vampire himself. The story of the game is extremely interesting, but the most exciting part of the game is when it suddenly shows you in New York City after 800 years. This will bring you from a medieval and magical game to the modern world, and the gameplay will become a combination of Diablo and Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. The game may be old, but it's still alive and well, and it's safe to say that it's one of the best vampire games of all time. The Sims 4. The Sims series always finds a way to enter the supernatural world, a way that took a long time to find for The Sims 4. In Sims 2, with the release of an expansion pack, many things were added to the game, such as city life, bowling club, singing, and also vampire. The developers for The Sims 3 went one step further and added a whole lot of new supernatural content to the game. In that game, you could build a whole Dracula castle for yourself, have a laboratory, and make a lot of secret and scary paths in this castle. Managing a vampire series was and still is really fun. In The Sims 4, they made it possible to play as a vampire from the beginning, and there was no need to become a primary. The life of vampires has many differences from normal people. They cannot go out in the morning. They need blood for nutrition, but they will also have supernatural powers. If you're in the mood for a vampire game with a management twist, don't miss out on The Sims 4, The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing. Now we are going to fully enter the Diablo style and play as the son of the most famous vampire hunter, Van Helsing. Set in 19th century Europe, this game tells the story of Van Helsing's son, how he follows in his father's footsteps and continues to fight monsters. This series had 3 different games, and all 3 games were extremely successful. These games combine the role-playing features of Diablo games with the addictive features of Blizzard games and finally become an extremely attractive game. If you are tired of waiting for the release of the 4th edition of the Diablo series, try this game because it can really be a good alternative.